Welcome back to another Marcintosh video. Today we'll be taking a look at the Powerbook 520C. So this is the Powerbook 520C that I picked up off of eBay quite a while ago. I actually supported the 520s and the 540s at a job I had in the late 90s. The Powerbook 500 series, which included the 520, 520C, the 540, and the 540C, and in Japan the 550C, was codenamed Blackbird and had a number of firsts for notebook computers and more firsts just for PowerBooks in general. One of the big things this has that was the first in the industry is having a trackpad instead of a trackball. So that's a pretty cool advancement. Still finding trackpads on today's laptop. Of course, today they're taking up like half the deck under the keyboard, but these first trackpads are pretty small. So having supported these and taken a bunch apart in the past, this piece kind of just cracks off and disappears very frequently, so this one obviously doesn't have that. Another first for notebook computers is the stereo speakers up here. So anyway, like I said, I picked up this model a while ago. I think it was like 20 bucks on eBay, and it's one of those things where, it's late at night and you can't sleep and you're just browsing eBay to see what's out there. I didn't have a 500 series, and then I got this. But it didn't come with power, and of course, the power adapter on these is not just a standard barrel jack, it's a 4-pin connector, and the pins are on this side. So, after a while, I went out and started looking on eBay for replacement power adapters for these. They're like $100. It's crazy. So I thought about wiring something up. I think it shouldn't be too hard to get something that will plug into there, or figure out some way to do it. But then I had the idea of maybe there is a Powerbook 500 series on eBay that's for parts only, or is just selling for cheap, that also includes the power adapter. And that's what this is. So I ended up getting a power adapter for much cheaper, and it also came with an entirely separate, I believe this is just a 520 in here, not the 520C. So I have no idea if this one works. I do know that it's in pretty rough shape, but that's kind of how these things lived back in the 90s anyway. Just being in rough shape in general. One of the other firsts were, this one has built-in Ethernet, so it uses the Apple AUI adapter, or AAUI, and that's a transceiver that plugs in and can convert to standard 10 base T twisted pair. So these machines also had dual batteries, so there's a battery on this side and a battery on this side. So the batteries pop out like this. This one has one battery, and actually just has a blank on the other side to make it look nice. But in the left-hand side battery bay, there's also a universal connector inside. So you could get a PC card cage, put it in there, and then you could use PC cards with this machine. Of course, at the loss of one of the batteries. But the batteries, also another first. They were intelligent batteries, so they actually monitored power level and battery health. There's circuitry in the battery that does that, and they also have a little door to cover up the contacts, so when you throw it in your bag, it's not going to short out and start a fire and burn down the airplane that you're riding in. So a couple of firsts with the battery, and of course the PC card cage was something else as well. So this is just a blank that covers up the battery where it would go. Let's leave those out for now, and let's get into this one and see what we have in here. Inside we have a laptop bag, and I think that's going to be it. Yep. Alright, so in this bag we have another Powerbook 500 series. And this one is in a little better shape, at least the bottom looks really nice. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, so this is the Powerbook 520. So this is the black and white variant, and the one I had was the color variant. But this one has this flap on here still. And it also has the Ready for Power PC upgrade sticker on it as well. And then also in here, we have the Powerbook 500 power adapter. So this is what I was really after, but can't really complain about having another Powerbook. All right, so let's get the camera over here on the bench and take a look at these machines and see what we are working with. All right, so I'm gonna take the batteries out of this one as well. I don't know if it has 2 or 1, but I got some corrosion on this one. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's some blue gunk on here. So this one, not in good shape. Not that any of these batteries are probably going to hold a charge anyway. This one has gooey, sticky, rubbery feet. So we'll need to deal with that. And this doesn't feel like it's a battery. This feels like it's another blank, and it is. All right. So I believe this was listed as untested. So hopefully the power adapter works. If not, we'll see if we can fix it. At the very least, we can use the connector off of it to hook up to some other power brick and potentially provide the correct voltage, but ideally it just works. So we'll plug into the AC mains here. The sticky feet are sticking to everything. So we'll plug in the power here. We'll go this way. And let's see if this machine does anything. Well, it chimes. The hard drive is spinning. Both good signs. And the backlight works, and it looks like the screen isn't suffering from vinegar syndrome. And it's actually booting. Yeah, it's always curious to me when these get sold as untested, when, you know, we tested it here in what, like 20 seconds? It looks like there's some ghosting on the screen, so probably we've got some bad capacitors in the screen itself. But that's not a big deal. Yeah, it always surprises me when these things show up as untested on eBay when it takes 10 seconds to test it and probably gets you a lot more money. And I think that's why I got this one for so cheap, because it was listed as untested. And people looking for a power brick are probably not looking for an entire system, and this wasn't labeled as having a power brick. It just said, you know, untested Powerbook 520. I looked at the pictures, and there was the power brick there. So the trackpad works, the little tiny trackpad. All right, we've got the launcher here with Solitaire eWorld. eWorld was Apple's answer competitor to America Online. I don't think it lasted a super long time. There's a few things here. Let's see what we've got in about this Macintosh. So this one's got 12 megabytes of RAM, and it's running system software 7.1.1. All right, and let's take a look at this hard drive here. All right, so we've got 131 megabytes in use and 112 free. So it's a little over half full. So is there anything fun on here? Battery recondition, HyperCard, eWorld, Microsoft Word 6. Oh, there's a System 7.5 folder on here. Well, somebody was maybe looking to upgrade to System 7.5. Interesting. It's not an actual system folder, but it is. It looks like the installer for it. Well, there's also a folder here called Sea Haven Towers, which appears to be a game. I don't know that I've ever played this one. Oh, it's just a Solitaire. Okay. All right, well, this machine seems to work pretty well. Like I mentioned, there's a bunch of ghosting on the screen. I think that's due to capacitors typically that need to be replaced, but not a big deal. All right, so let's shut this guy down. And with these machines, the reason this comes off so easily is because it's attached here at the top. The microphone is here, and when you close it, it kind of sticks out a little bit. So if you don't push on it, or, you know, once it starts to get worn, then it catches the top and it pops off and breaks. So that's why that's missing on so many of these. It's not a great design by Apple in this case, but yeah, you can feel this one's already kind of like loose and sort of cracking a little bit. All right, Let's get those sticky feet off my table. Slide this one over. Plug it in. Yeah, so here's the microphone. So the plastic would have covered it, and that little tiny gap was for the microphone. All right, let's see what happens here. This one also chimes. I also hear a hard drive spinning, but I'm not seeing any video. Actually, I do see it. It just looks like that it's really dim. Maybe we can crank up the brightness. I think, if I remember, it has to be booted for these buttons to work. I don't recall exactly the deal. Also looks like there's some problem with the screen here on the side. But I do see the flashing question mark. But yeah, we have no backlight in this one. So we'll need to boot it up and see if we can increase the brightness. So this entire assembly is kind of loose. It looks like somebody has taken this machine apart, perhaps in an attempt to fix it at some point. The top case is kind of coming off a little bit too. So like I said, this one's not in the best shape, but it does have the color screen, which isn't working great. All right, so let's take our SCSI adapter here. We'll plug that in. I'll plug in my blue SCSI here. Let's see if we can get this thing to boot off of whatever image I happen to have on here at the moment. While it's doing that, I'm going to cut the remainder of the feet off of this other one. Get rid of that goo. So we've got little chunks of goo here. Man, it looks like it's gooey all the way down. Alright, so still getting a flashing question mark. It could be that the blue SCSI is not getting power through this adapter. I don't see the light on, so we'll need to provide power to it externally, which will be a little tricky since the power connection is on the bottom, so we'll have to kind of just prop it up. Somehow. Set it right on here. There we go. Alright, so I need a USB Type-C cable to power it. Let me grab one of those. Alright, so I've got a new 753 image and hopefully a bit of a better camera angle. So let's go ahead and boot it up now. Command Option Shift Delete 1. So I've got my image on SCSI 81. So we hold down Command Option Shift Delete 1. It should boot off of SCSI 81. And there it goes. So what's interesting is that I was doing a little bit of research on these, and the screens are fully compatible with each other. So you can take a 520 screen, put it on a 500, and same for the other way. The only difference is the cables that are used. So there's the color cable and the black and white cable, but the system boards are identical between the two machines. So we do have a nice color screen here, just no backlight. This one's got 4 megs of RAM, which I've already forgotten. That was yesterday when I was looking at the other one. What was it, 12 megs? All right, let's see if we can turn the brightness up here. Still not yet. I think it just is completely not working. So in doing the research, I also saw that one of the main failure points of these machines is that the inverter cable itself goes bad. The inverter cable is what takes the DC power from the machine, converts it to AC to run the backlight. It's also very possible that the backlight's bulb is dead as well. I think they're compact fluorescents in these. They're definitely not LEDs. That wasn't a thing when these guys came out. But it's almost like it's working a little bit, because I do see some brightness on it when I'm looking at it here. But it's just not adjusting. Oh, you know why? Because we need to do the contrast. It's the contrast that was making it dark. Alright, so the backlight's fine. I can see it sticking out from the bottom here. So the only problem then is we've got some artifacting here. And what I do see is that it looks like this cable might have been pinched by whatever screws behind it. So it's certainly possible that the cable's bad on this one. But I don't have another color screen to use, so I can't swap one in. I could put the black and white screen one on this one, but I don't think that's going to get me too much. This one does have less RAM. It'd be nice to have more RAM in the color one, but it's not the end of the world. It's also possible that the LCD screen itself is bad, but I think more than likely it's one of the connections to it. And this looks pretty suspect here. Although when I poke at it, I don't see anything changing, so perhaps not the issue. One thing that is funny, if you go to Wikipedia and look up the Powerbook 500 series, one of the pictures comparing, I think it's a 520 or maybe it's a 540, to the 550, which was the Japanese only one, which looks a lot more like the Powerbook 3400 than the 500 series. It's missing this too. So somebody had one of these, one of the Japanese ones, put them side by side for comparison, and yeah, it's just missing that entire plate. It's like I said, super common. It's kind of ugly, but it's not truly a big deal. But I think what I would like to do is if I can take... Oh, right, so the hard drive in this one's bad too, right? Since we can only boot off the Blue SCSI, and I don't see any other hard drive in here, even though I hear it spinning. And it's locked up here now. Probably trying to access that hard drive. So at the very least, we can pull this drive out. See if it tries to do anything without holding down Command Option Shift Delete 1. It's probably trying to read that bad hard drive. Yeah, I think it's not going to be able to boot. Okay. So I think what I'd like to do is to yank this hard drive out of this one. Maybe we could swap it out with this one. And then we'll take this faceplate here and put it on this one. Although these hinges are definitely in way worse shape. This one is in pretty good shape, nice and solid, but this one is like real floppy. I suspect what happened is somebody took this one apart. They were actually pretty well built until you started taking them apart, and then they would never go back together right. That was kind of a huge problem with these things. Just like once you took them apart, that was kind of the end of them having good fitting connections everywhere. So these take Torx T10, I believe. I have this nice toolkit, but I dropped it once and spilled all of the bits, and I have yet to get them all back in their correct place. So always a bit of trial and error trying to find the right bit. All right, so looking a little closer, all of the screws are missing except for these three, so we can definitely get this one apart. All right, and there's a sticker here kind of holding the case together, I think. 005 or 500 series? I don't know what that means. So taking the screws out releases the keyboard. Now we can just pull the two cables out here. Now this is the processor card cover. The hard drive is in here. Not screwed in, just in there loose. And that takes a bigger bit. And I think whoever put this back, this is supposed to go on top of the shell. So there's this plastic tab, and they have it underneath. I think it's supposed to go on top of that, and that's how you would secure it. I don't know if I can cheat it out of there. So we take this off, I think. And then we have access to remove this cover with a screw there. Here's our processor. This is the 68LC040, and then the RAM expansion module will go here. So I think we'll steal the RAM out of the other one. I'd like to get this hard drive out because I want to steal that too. Like I said, I think it is in there incorrectly. It's got this hinge here, and this, the way it should work is you put the edges in and then you drop it down. So somebody made a small mistake here. Alright, well, let's take the floppy drive out. I don't think this is the factory routing for this particular cable. Again, I don't quite remember. It doesn't seem right to me though. Alright, so we'll disconnect the cable. And then the floppy comes out. Making progress. And then I think we need to take this screw out. Alright, so now we can get some distance here in this gap. And maybe slide this metal piece out. Hopefully without breaking anything. There we go. Alright. Then we can take our hard drive and disconnect that. Alright, so this is an IBM 240 megabyte SCSI drive. Nice little shield over it, but unfortunately it is apparently dead. Since it causes any access to it, it seems to freeze the system. Alright, so let me show you what I meant by this. So normally if this case is down, you put this hinge part in here, like that, and then you just drop it down. Like it's supposed to be super simple. Somebody put it in wrong and overcomplicated everything. No big deal, we can fix it. Alright, so we need a hard drive. So for that, let's go ahead and swap these guys around. So this is a nice example of the 520, but of the two, alright, so this hard drive is installed correctly, which is nice. So yeah, I don't think this one has been taken apart before, although it does have the RAM upgrade, so perhaps it was. There we go. Alright, now watch this. Slide it this way, and then lift it up. Couldn't be easier. That's how it's supposed to work. Alright, and then we've got the insulating layer. Drive itself. Alright, so here we have, I believe this is the same drive, right? 240, yeah, same drive. But this one works. Alright, then I don't want to take this plastic part off of this one, because like I said, once you start taking these things apart, they do not go back together. I'm just going to cheat a little bit. Take the heatsink panel off here. I'm just going to lift it up. And there's the RAM that I need. Got the RAM chip. And then we can just put that back down and act like nothing ever happened. Okay, and looking at the floppy cable here, yes. The wiring like that was from the factory. Alright, so now we can start putting the parts back. So we'll put the drive caddy back. And then I don't want to lose... Yes, actually I should put this underneath. Alright, so I'm going to take these 4 drive screws, put them in this oversized bag, because that's all I happen to have around. I'll fold it up. And we'll take the drive thing, put that in there. Now we will put a screw back in to hold it in place. That way if I ever want to put another drive in here or use a blue SCSI, I will know where the screws are. Alright, so we'll put this ram holder back in place. Now I think that actual ram holder was missing on the other one, but it shouldn't be a big deal. It does kind of help keep the heatsink down, so it might be a problem, but these chips don't get super hot, so I'm not too concerned. Alright, with that done, we can slide the keyboard back in for the depth of those holes. Alright, cool. So, I think we've done enough to this machine, but it's still in really good shape, so it's easy enough to bring it back if we like. Let's make sure it still turns on. It does. So we took the RAM and the hard drive out of it, so it's going to have 4 megabytes of RAM, which is stock, and it's not going to boot because there's no hard drive. Just make sure we get the flashing question mark here. Oh, yeah, we do. Just can't see it from where I'm sitting. All right, great. So this machine is fully functional, but with no hard drive. Now, of course, we could always use a blue SCSI with it if we really wanted to, but kind of defeats the purpose of a laptop. And we almost forgot, I want to take this. I really want to take this off. So to do that, we'll open it all the way. And it just kind of pops off. There are some plastic brackets, and this one happens to have a couple of the feet left. All right, we'll close this up and say goodbye. Yeah, this machine's in relatively decent shape. The top's a little scuffed. Looks like soda can rings maybe. But the bottom is pretty good. It had the sticky feet, but I carved out the sticky parts. The legs, fortunately, aren't sticky. So overall, not a bad machine. Now, one more thing I want to do with this one before we put it away is I want to take this back door off. So the other one does not have the back door because, again, these things are notorious for just disappearing. They just use tiny little feet or little pegs, I guess, and they break super easily. So a lot of the 500 class machines missing the back door as well. All right, well, Mr. 520 that I got for free basically with a power supply and actually saved me money. Thank you for your sacrifice. It will not be in vain. But let's get you on the shelf. If we ever come across the back door and get a blue SCSI for it or something, we'll slap it in there. I will put this back. This is just the slot cover one. All right. Reason for that, I'm going to leave this one empty because we don't want to put a battery in it and have the battery leak, and this battery already is corroding, so this needs to be recycled, and we'll just leave this one empty. All right, thanks again, Mr. 520. Appreciate your sacrifice. All right, now back to this guy. Let's finish up our brain swap here. So what's interesting, in the last one, I noticed that this spot was not populated. This is the modem. So this is a Global Village PowerPort Mercury for Powerbook 500. So this one has a modem. That one didn't. Yeah, and there's the modem port in the back. Here, can't quite see it, but yeah, modem. Cool. So let's first install the RAM upgrade. And like I suspected, this one is missing that plastic piece that would go across here to hold the RAM down and also help keep the heatsink tight against the processor. So whoever was working on this one, whenever they were working on it, they maybe didn't know what they were doing so well. That's okay. All right, so we've got our RAM upgrade installed. Let's do the heatsink. I suspect this was also electromagnetic radiation prevention the FCC required. Does kind of clip in, but if that plastic piece was here, it would screw into that and it would hold it down better, but and we don't have it. Not too concerned. So it does screw down on this end, and that should be enough to keep it tight so it doesn't overheat. All right. Now we can reinstall the floppy drive. All right, and then we have our hard drive. So first we'll want to mount that in the bracket and make sure to go the correct way. So it'll be like this. And we need that little flap. Make sure we don't short anything out. All right, and with that plugged in, we put the little 3 teeth into the chassis and just drop it down. And then just one screw to hold that in place. The other screw that holds it in place comes up through the keyboard, holds the keyboard in place along with the drive. So before we reinstall the keyboard, let's get these parts back in. And then this should just slot in here. All right, so we got that. And then we have this infamous part. Should slot in here and ideally should clip in. Like so. All right, and then we will reinstall the keyboard. So we've got 2 ribbon cables to drop in here. Now this one, like I said, was missing the screws. Luckily I have a bunch of old Powerbook screws here from days gone by. I'll see if I have the right ones. I think these ones might be the right ones. These 2 perhaps. If it is, it's part number 4171213. Definitely not these. Could be these as well. But yeah, not these other ones, so. And these are all just random Powerbook screws that I have. So if it's not the one I said, then it's 4191209 probably. Well, let's try these first. Yep, all right. So I think we have the right screws then. Just a couple more here. We've got these long ones here. And these little short guys. Let's see if I have any of those. Too small. Too big. Too big. I don't think I have any of that particular screw. So we're just going to be short 1 screw on one of these corners here. This is not the end of the world. All right. So I guess that means all we need to do is test it out and make sure it works. So far, so good. I'll go ahead and put the extra battery bay blank in place. This battery, I think is okay. I can't remember. Yeah, looks like it's fine. So I'll just reinstall it for no reason. Certainly won't hurt anything to be in there. Alright, so we're booted up. And we're running in black and white mode, because that's what this was set to. The hard drive in its previous home. See on the control strip here, do we have colors? We do not. So let's go to our monitor's control panel. Set this to colors. 256. Alright, there we go. Those beautiful 256 colors. Alright. So there you have it. Random late night eBay purchase that turned into a hunt for a cheap power supply, that turned into a parts machine that wasn't actually a parts machine, that then became a parts machine, to now we have a fully functional and more or less restored Powerbook 520C. It does need some cleaning. I'll take care of that off camera. Nobody wants to watch me clean any more Macs, I think. But yeah, this is a pretty nice system with the 68 LC040 processor. Of course, the 540C had the better processor and ran at a faster speed, but overall these machines I have some fond and not so fond memories of them just because of how difficult it was to put them back together when you serviced them. The same thing with the Powerbook Duos. Just they had that strip on the side, never getting that thing back right. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a fun Marcintosh so far, and I think we have one more week left, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in that video next week. Happy Marcintosh, everybody.
Hi guys! Make sure to like and subscribe and watch more of our videos later. Bye!